As we work tirelessly to publish this podcast, today at 2 p.m., Mayor Greg Fisher announced the city of Louisville, Kentucky has agreed to a settlement with the family of Breonna Taylor and has instituted a series of police reforms to settle the family's wrongful death lawsuit.
While we await a decision from Attorney General Daniel Cameron on whether or not charges will be filed in this case, my administration is not waiting to move ahead with needed reforms to prevent a tragedy like this from ever happening again. That's why I'm here today with the family of Breonna Taylor to announce that Louisville Metro government has settled the civil lawsuit with her estate. This settlement includes a payment to Breonna's estate of $12 million.
Even though Breonna's family's civil lawsuit has been settled, criminal charges against the officers involved have yet to be filed by Attorney General Daniel Cameron. Before we can celebrate this milestone, let's get a better understanding of the entire case.
Louisville's #1 for hip-hop is B96.5 DJ Q to take over. And, you know, it's not always that my celebrity friends step into the building, come to the 502, and stand up and talk about getting justice.
As you know, man, I don't consider myself a celebrity. I'm a member of the family, so we rock it, man. I thank you guys for supporting me, showing love, and then, you know, in a time like this, all I can do is pay it forward and really jump out here for the community and, you know, tap in with the city of Louisville in a real way, because I know it's been some tough times, and really, you know, having an opportunity to spend time with, you know, Breonna Taylor's family and, you know, the movement in which we doing out here. We plan it until we see justice.
Police are releasing very few details about what happened early this morning, but we do know Sergeant John Mattingly, who was shot and remains hospitalized tonight, is expected to make a full recovery.
Just before 1 Friday morning, neighbors on Springfield Drive in southwest Louisville woke up to the sound of gunfire, but the SWAT team later found a woman dead inside.
Shortly after midnight on March 13th, Breonna Taylor, an emergency room technician, lay blissfully asleep in bed with her boyfriend, Kenneth Walker. Suddenly, they were jolted out of bed by a loud banging at the front door. A fearful Breonna called out, "Who is it?" to only receive a response of silence. Again, a loud bang at the door rocks their world as they both shudder in fear. Breonna this time responds even louder. "Who is it?" No response. It's then that Kenneth, a legal gun owner, grabbed his pistol for protection. Suddenly, the doors to their home blows off the hinges, and Kenneth fires a single warning shot. A barrage of over 20 bullets invade their apartment, 8 of them hitting Breonna and killing her. Over the course of the past few months, Breonna's family has awakened the world to the misjustice that occurred that late night in March, and continue to demand criminal charges be levied against the police officers involved in the murder. On this session of Cannon's class, we took a field trip to the front lines, teaming up with Breonna's family, attorney Ben Crump, attorney Lonita Baker, activist Tamika, Mallory, Mysonne, and even an up-close and emotional sit-down with Breonna's mother. All in effort to get more details and stand in agreement with their fight.
I had been urging to speak with this young lady just because I just wanted to share my love and my compassion in the moment. The mother of Breonna Taylor, Miss Tamika, how you doing? I know it's a lot going on. I know you're exhausted. We just talked. How you holding up?
I'm dealing. I'm maintaining.
Yeah.
Just trying to get through the days.
You know, I'm surrounded by all these people, but they don't really understand what I'm going through and how I feel. And, you know, for her birthday to come up so quickly after this incident, it was heartbreaking. I didn't want to be up out of bed. I didn't want to deal with people, but like you said, it was all these people who I don't even know who came from everywhere to celebrate her life. So I had to get up and I had to talk and I had to be around these people and I'm grateful. I really am, but just that day in that moment, I didn't want to be that person. I didn't, you know, to know that she talked about, you know, having the best day that day, going out to dinner with her boyfriend and going home to watch movies, to know she was in her house, in her own bed, and someone kicked in her door and killed her. To know that she didn't deserve it.
Just when it started out, people didn't really know about it, and the people who did just heard this glimpse of this story on the news, and it went away as quickly as it came. Again, I am Tamika Palmer. I'm Breonna's mother. It's sad that we all have to be here for this, but I don't think that I'm asking for too much. Just justice for her. Just that people know the truth, what happened, that she didn't deserve this, that people are fired for doing this to her.
Because black women, man, they don't often get the same attention and recognition that brothers get.
Right.
And so when Lonita told me about, there was this young woman who was killed in her own apartment, Nick, and I know you're a father of daughters too, so I have a little girl, and she said it was a botched no-knock warrant, and nobody's paying attention. They trying to sweep it under the rug, even though we know they lied on the search warrant.
Right.
Police told us this.
The officers forced entry into the exterior door.
3-page police report that was virtually blank. They said there was no forced entry. Well, we know that they used a battering ram to enter Breonna's home. Said that Breonna suffered no injuries. So that's what was happening when Louisville Metro Police was investigating themselves.
Like I said, the whole police department should go down because of that. Like that.
Yeah, so it's the cover-up. So you have Breonna's murder, but what we believe would have been a cover-up.
And probably many more cover-ups.
Exactly. So we have 2 months before, we brought Attorney Crump into the case.
You know, as deep as we're here in Louisville, Kentucky, the birthplace of Muhammad Ali, when you find that conscience, you find that inner strength to say, we have to speak for those who don't have a voice. And Lonita Baker and I, we're here for Breonna Taylor. We're fighting in Minneapolis for George Floyd, fighting for Ahmaud Arbery in Brunswick, Georgia. And if we don't use our voices, then they might never be heard, Nick. I mean, when I say we, you too, man, I mean, you're a big time celebrity, and for you to say it matters because I got children of color.
Right.
You had this young woman who was doing all the right things in life. No criminal history, never been arrested, working in the medical profession, trying to help people with the coronavirus. That was her mother's greatest fear, never thinking that the police would kill her. So she's in her bed, sleeping. Her boyfriend, Kenny, 27 years old, never been arrested, no criminal history. Working with the post office, they doing the right things in life, Nick. The police, unbeknownst to them, are executing dangerous, unconstitutional, I believe, and unnecessary no-knock warrant. They don't announce themselves, they don't identify themselves, and they're in plain clothes. And they take a battering ram and they bust open her front door. Kenny, being a good brother, I hope every brother would do this, he gets his gun, he's a registered gun owner, and he creeps down the hall in an effort to protect their castle, protect his woman, and protect their lives. And he shoots a warning shot. And then a minute passed and the police just unload.
A lot of gunshots. Yeah, I need to get over here. They're shooting out like crazy. Yeah, just get down.
Our glass door is shattered, and I understand there's something going on, but I have a 5-year-old in here.
They shoot almost 25 rounds. I mean, they shoot from the front door. They shoot from the outside the side window. They're shooting from the patio. Bullets everywhere. Lonita tells me they shot so recklessly, Nick, that they even shot a bullet in the next door neighbor's apartment where their 5-year-old son was sleeping at. And tragically, Breonna Taylor's body was executed by bullets.
911, Operator Harris, where is your emergency?
I don't know what's happening. Somebody kicked in the door inside my girlfriend.
Okay, where are you located?
I'm at 3003 Springfield Drive, apartment 4.
3003 Springfield Drive, apartment number 4?
Yes. Oh my God.
Okay, how old is your girlfriend?
She's 26. Bree. Oh,
You said 26. Where was she shot at?
I don't know. She's on the ground right now. I don't know.
Okay.
Mama.
You said she's 26. Is she alert and able to talk to you?
No, she's not. Bree. God.
Okay. And you said you're in apartment number 4.
Hell. Oh, my God. Yes, hell.
What's your name, sir?
Oh, my name is Kenneth Walker.
You said Kenneth?
Hell.
And you said she's 26?
Yes.
Okay, you said 3003 Springfield Drive, apartment number 4?
Yes.
Okay. Can you check and see where she's been shot at?
I can't know the story. No,
Okay. Is she alert and able to talk to you?
No, Bree.
Okay.
I think she's Lord. Oh my God.
Think about it. Why would Kenny call 911 if he knew the cops were just outside? Notice the silence in the background of the call. No shouting, no police announcing themselves. Clearly he had no idea who broke into Breonna's apartment.
This happened March 13th, so one of the issues that we see highlighted in Breonna Taylor's case is what happens when a police department is left to investigate itself. For 2 months, the only thing that we had was a police report that was released to the media, and people saw it, people were angry by it.
Breaking news today in Breonna Taylor's case. The Louisville Courier-Journal reporting that Breonna Taylor was alive after police shot her and nobody tried to treat her. Dispatch logs obtained by the Journal show that more than 20 minutes after Taylor was fatally shot, she lay there receiving no medical attention. And reportedly for at least 5 of those 20 minutes, she was alive. She was struggling. She was coughing for breath, coughing to breathe.
Breonna's mother, Tamika, was waken up in the middle of the night by a call from Kenneth. Unsure and alarmed from the information from Kenneth, Tamika immediately went to the location of Breonna's murder. She was then directed to the hospital by a police officer. After waiting there for over 2 hours, the hospital administration informed her that her daughter was never checked in. Searching for answers, Breonna's mother went back to the scene of the shooting. She arrived at her daughter's apartment swarming with flashing lights and police cars. It was then that she said,
"Well, why won't you tell me where Breonna is? I need to see Breonna." And he says, well, she's still in the apartment.
So had the world not began to pay attention to Breonna Taylor's story, it would be a 3-page police report that said Breonna Taylor suffered no injuries.
Wow. And so in dealing with this, I mean, obviously you've unveiled and revealed so much about this specific law enforcement, but corrupt law enforcement and corrupt police departments is nothing new.
Exactly.
And they're become from the unions and even just the way law enforcement officers hide behind the badge and almost come together themselves has become an issue, and it goes all the way back because there's this false sense of power that they enforce on the community, specifically our black community, that creates this fear. But then when something like this with Breonna Taylor comes across, we feel helpless.
Yeah.
I mean, the fact that even there's so much hopelessness when, like, man, I hope we can get the justice, opposed to like, no, we demand the justice. Why do you see that with someone who's dealing so closely, and do you feel the pressure, still being here in the city of, the people who are supposed to be protecting you are now become your opponents?
Based on the history in America, the police were the slave patrol.
Come on, let's talk about it.
They were the people who were supposed to keep the status quo, keep those Negroes over there.
Teach.
And that really was the mentality. And some would argue that's still the mentality.
Absolutely.
That police protect and serve others, but they police.
They patrol us.
Yeah, patrol us to keep us in our place.
All of this was supposedly to stop narcotics in the community. But because of the militarization of the police force, things have clearly gotten out of hand. It was never a war on drugs. It was just a war on us. President Nixon was the first to introduce the concept of the war on drugs. And one of Richard Nixon's top advisors came forth with the actual truth, stating that the Nixon campaign in 1968, we, the Nixon White House, had two enemies, anti-war left and black people. Yes, this is coming from John Ehrlichman, Nixon's domestic policy chief. He was quoted by saying, "We knew we couldn't make it illegal to be either against the war or black. But by getting the public to associate the hippies with marijuana and the blacks with heroin, and then criminalizing them both heavily, we could disrupt those communities. We could arrest their leaders, raid their homes, break up their meetings, and vilify them night after night on the evening news. Did we know we were lying about the drugs? Of course we did." Ehrlichman goes on to blow the whistle about the Southern strategy. This is what helped Richard Nixon get elected. President Nixon emphasized that you have to face the fact that the whole problem is really the blacks. With the Southern strategy in '68, they said, "We'll go after the racist." The subliminal appeal to the anti-black voter was always present in Nixon's statements and speeches. Sound familiar? Kind of like this administration. The baton of the war on drugs was passed to President Ronald Reagan. With his wife's Just Say No campaign, they were gonna crack down on crack. From that day forth, they have made drugs in the inner city the most violent scavenger hunt we've ever seen, utilizing tanks, bazookas, assault rifles, batarams, and other military weapons to collect substances. As tough and trying as we know this year has been, there have only been 12 days in 2020 where police did not kill someone. Sadly, the trend of fatal police shootings in the United States seems to only be increasing. With a total of 661 civilians having been shot, 123 of them were black.
If it was not for Lonita Baker, Sam Aguilar, our legal team, they would have swept her death under the rug. And so what I said on Trayvon, and actually Johnny Cochran told me this at a national bar meeting, the black lawyers meeting. He said, "Man, I had a case once where there were 200 witnesses." This is Johnny Cochran. And he said 200 people saw it, and they still didn't put the police in jail.
Wow.
And he said, so anytime you get a chance to let people know about an injustice, you better do it, because the court system take it to the back courtroom in the corner,
Right.
sweep it under the rug, and nobody will even care.
Right.
And so what I started doing, Nick, is saying, no, we're going to make sure everybody know Trayvon name. Everybody going to know Mike Brown name. Everybody going to know Stephon Clark name. Everybody going to know Terrence Crutcher name.
Yeah.
Everybody going to know Botham Jones name. Everybody going to know Eric Garner name. Everybody going to know Breonna Taylor name. And so I just kept saying, we got to keep saying black women lives matter too, because they keep getting forgotten about.
Absolutely.
And we just cannot let them forget about Breonna Taylor. We literally had to call on people like you, Tamika, Mallory,
Right.
Jada.
I want you to know that we want to say thank you.
Thank you.
Because it is you standing out here that's going to keep shining a light on Breonna's name.
I mean, we had to call everybody we knew, Oprah, anybody who had influence, and say, y'all help us get attention
Shine
on Breonna
the light
Taylor.
on this. Through social media, Breonna's story has taken rise. A-listers all over the world have stepped up and shown support for Breonna. Viola Davis, Samuel L. Jackson, LeBron James, Beyonce, and Oprah Winfrey have all put up diligent efforts to seek justice for Breonna and her family, with slogans and statements like "Arrest the cops that killed Breonna Taylor" and hashtag "Justice for Breonna" have become a trend, but more importantly need to be reality.
The founders of a social justice group from New York are packing their bags and they're moving to Louisville to stand up for Breonna Taylor. This comes after the group led a large demonstration right in front of Attorney General Daniel Cameron's East End home. You remember that protest. And they're telling our tonight Guekguezian until justice is served, they're here to stay.
Tamika Mallory and her Until Freedom organization have relocated and moved to Louisville, Kentucky, and plan on staying there permanently until justice is received for Breonna Taylor's murder. Another frontliner, my brother, the general, activist, MC, and true soldier of the streets, Mysonne says,
Ben Crump had called us and was like, explain to us Breonna's case, because we hadn't even heard about it.
Right.
And when we started to listen to it, and understand that a woman had been killed in her home.
Yeah.
You know, an innocent woman had been killed by for a no-knock warrant that she wasn't even for her, for somebody who didn't live there and who was already in custody. And when you look at all of those things and those dynamics, and then you realize that people lied on paperwork and all type of things, and that there was nobody even talking about it.
Yeah.
Like, that was really scary to me. But then I started to realize that in America, black women have never received any level of justice.
Right.
Not any level of justice. Like, I cannot recall, because I actually can call off a few names of officers who got arrested for killing brothers. I have yet to see an officer get any type of reprimand from killing one of our sisters.
Wow.
You know, so this right here is detrimental. This is going to set precedents.
Right.
As a black man in America, understanding that we ourselves have failed our black women in so many different ways. You know, we haven't stood by them. We've allowed them to be beat and harmed and killed, and we've been silent. We've said we've minded our business. You know, and I just think in this moment, that's no longer acceptable.
We don't want to sit here and say, well, the black woman was raped, she was murdered, she was lynched, she was dismembered, she did all these things. My child, I couldn't look at my child or to sell them to another plantation. They tarred and feathered me if my woman showed any love to me.
And to this day, the black woman is still the most mistreated person on the planet.
Exactly.
Activist and creator of the hashtag, Kimberly Crenshaw, says, "Say Her Name" attempts to make the death of black women an active part of this conversation by saying their names. Breonna Taylor and many more continue to be unheard, even in their demise.
We realized that the incremental thing wasn't working, you know. And what they do is they try to wait till the movement fizzes out. You know, they try to wait you out because they know you get tired. They know every day you don't want to be on the street. Exactly.
Changes every 24
now.
hours.
We ain't gonna play by Breonna Taylor, man. This ain't gonna happen. We ain't going nowhere. We're gonna be here every day. We're gonna rejuvenate the ground. We're gonna give them resources. And when they can't walk, we're gonna walk for them. You know, we're gonna do all the things necessary because this is gonna set precedents, especially for black women. Black women, like I said, we have yet to see a black woman receive any level of justice. She's the most disrespected and hated woman in the world.
The oppressed of the oppressed.
And we can't, and I'm just no longer okay with that. You know, I'm just not okay with that. I'm a son of a black mother. You know, I'm the brother of a black sister, and at this point, it's just not gonna happen.
Right.
You know, so as being a co-founder of Until Freedom, and accepting the leadership of a black woman like Tamika Mallory, who has shown that she's supposed to be a leader. And accepting her leadership, knowing that sometimes I'm gonna have to stand in front of her, sometimes I'm gonna have to stand alongside her, sometimes I'm gonna have to stand behind her, and that's the role of a black man for me.
After speaking with activist Tamika Mallory, I knew regardless of what was going on in my own personal life, I had to be there.
You know, Breonna Taylor is me. I am Breonna Taylor. I mean, like, when you think about her story, in any other story that we look at, there's something that they make up as an excuse. You know, there was a wallet. You flared your hands too much. Sandra Bland was too nasty. You know, they come up with something. Philando Castile had a gun. Like, something we did that caused it. We don't accept it, but I'm just saying there's some type of excuse made. In this particular situation, nobody has anything. No, there's no one who can explain why Breonna Taylor was killed. There's like that. The city itself has not even come forward to say what they usually do. They push back and they try to, you know, make up some pieces, and eventually they either end up doubling down or kind of stepping away from that excuse. There's nothing. There's nothing. The bottom line is, you know, and with their police work that they're supposed to be doing is based upon lies. The no-knock warrant that they had is a warrant that was signed with lies. This is what they do. So if we know that, then what stops it from happening to me or you? Like, why can't the police run up in my house based upon somebody that I knew 3, 4, 5 years ago, maybe even yesterday, a friend of mine that might be caught up in something, and that means that it's fair game to come to my house and kill me? Like, that's something I don't feel like we can just let this go. Like, you have to say, if we can't get justice in this situation, then we'll never be able to get justice for any of these cases.
There's been tons of misinformation about this case, so much so that it even created debates within the culture, where people have personally attacked our own Tamika Mallory. Social media, as we know, a place for misinformation, caught fire from all angles. Several tweets from so-called hip-hop producer J.W. Lucas enraged the entire community.
Tamika, I should be a leader in the Black Lives Matter movement because I'm more capable than you. I'm more capable.
Really? All right.
Yes, I am.
So you know what? Here's what
you
we're
don't
gonna
understand
do.
the nature
Here's
of reality.
What we're gonna do. That you will have to deal with me for the rest of your life. Because anybody you do business with, I'm gonna show up to make sure that they know that you are a racist and that your rhetoric and the tone that you're using is extremely dangerous and that you disrespected the life of a young 26-year-old woman.
Never. I will not accept that. That's bullshit, and it shows your colors. You don't give a fuck about decreasing inequality. You care about getting your own political gain. You care about bettering yourself. You ain't doing shit for the problem.
That you do
That's
business
bullshit.
with, and you will never make business. You will never make
You ain't
another
canceling
dime.
shit.
Nationally, African Americans between the ages of 10 and 34 died from homicide at 13 times the rate of white Americans. This is according to researchers from the Centers of Disease Control and Prevention and the Justice Department. For the last 5 years, the police have fatally shot over 1,000 civilians. Black people account for an estimated 23% of those shot and killed by police. Though we are only 13% of the U.S. population, we are killed by police more than twice the rate of white Americans. 99% of killings by police from 2013 to 2019 have not resulted in officers being charged with the crime.
This is the most clear-cut, open and shut situation I've ever seen.
Right.
And we know that even the current acting police chief agrees because he, when firing one of the officers, says very clearly that people's lives were put in danger that night because, you know, you were shooting. I think they say, I don't know if that was in the chief's statement, but I know that it has been said that he fired at least 10 shots into the home and maybe even more. He said this was ridiculous.
Right.
You know, he said it was the chief of police. He said it was a shock to the system. He said that. So we all on the same page.
Right.
So now we need this to move from your human resource business. When you fire someone, that's human resource work.
Right.
That's your interdepartment stuff. You know, okay, this person hasn't done the job properly. You fire them. But we're over here talking about the human rights side of it. What do we do from a human rights perspective to make this right the best that we can? And so for me, it's a no-brainer that anyone who claims to be in the movement, anyone who claims to be about this work, if you're not about Breonna Taylor, then I don't know what you're working on.
Right, indeed. And so you hear and,
we're here.
and you focus. Now let's talk about that because that made news. I feel like it should have made more news, but you did get arrested. It was 87 people that got arrested here. When protesting, and, you know, there's demonstrations all over the country. Now, was that in the same vein as like the civil rights movement in the 60s where you were purposely arrested?
Certainly.
And then if one wants to peacefully do that, how do they go about that? What was the charges? Why were you arrested? And then what did that serve in seeking justice for Breonna?
It's loaded with your question. So also, we are trying to, and you'll catch me saying peaceful protests at times too, and then I catch myself, and we're trying to shift that narrative. It's not a peaceful protest. It's a nonviolent protest. It's not a peaceful protest because you can't say no justice, no peace, and then say, but we're peacefully protesting. There is no peace in it. And the purpose of what we're doing is to disrupt peace.
Disrupt peace.
Disrupt people, disrupt Daniel Cameron, who thinks that him and his new wife are going to be, you know, living in a little home with a white picket fence and everything. Nah, we going to your crib. Like, you can't sleep.
I mean, it seems like there's a black attorney general, if I'm not mistaken, correct?
He's a Republican black attorney general.
We got to make sure that whole label goes across.
Mr. President, I hope you can tell that Kentucky is Trump country. And here in the Commonwealth, we are going to stand up for those who cannot speak for themselves. And, Mr. President, we are going to stand with you in protecting the Second Amendment rights of all Kentuckians.
Being a black man, it should be a little easier to have the conversation. I know he had the first opportunity to meet Breonna's family yesterday, so I'm just wondering, like,
Do you see any empathy in that space, or is it all about the job, fam?
What I'll say is this, Nick. There was no activity whatsoever in the first couple of months on Breonna Taylor's case. They never intended on arresting these officers.
I can assure you that at the end of our investigation, we will do what is right. We will find the truth.
Breonna's case has to be a catalyst for change. Attorney Crump and I met with the mayor yesterday, and one thing that we told him is there's more healing. It's not just about bringing charges against the officers, and that's, for clarity's sake, that's Attorney General Daniel Cameron's job. He's the one that can bring.
And we need him
charges.
to make that happen.
Yes, arrest the cops.
Focus.
Already.
You back at work. Let's get it done.
And so, he said there's much more healing that has to be done before, or not much more healing, much more policy changes that have to be made before we can even begin to heal as a community.
Right.
As the chief prosecutor for the Commonwealth, my role and the role of my team is very different than that of a civil or criminal defense attorney. I have a specific obligation to see that anyone accused of a crime is accorded procedural justice and that guilt is decided upon the basis of sufficient evidence rather than public opinion.
But the evidence is overwhelming, and I believe that I am completely confident, based on the evidence, Nick Cannon, they gotta charge these police officers.
They need to. They have.
Both the FBI and the Kentucky Attorney General Daniel Cameron continue to investigate the shooting, and the people are still in the streets calling for justice. So what does justice for Breonna Taylor look like?
These officers being fired and arrested. If anybody else would have done it, they'd be arrested. So they obtained a warrant under a lie. They told several stories, and so they should be arrested. I mean, they lied. There was no reason for them to be there, and the person you wanted, so you proclaimed to want it, was in custody. So to go in there at 1 a.m. and scare her and kill her.
Here's what's going to happen if they get fired. Let's assume that they should be fired. All right, now let me tell you what'll happen. Let me tell you what'll happen. Let me tell you what'll happen. They will not go to jail. They will be fired. They will appeal that. They will be back on their job within 1 week with back pay, with damages from the city. Because that's how the law works. So think about this. That is state law, my brother. I'm sorry, folks. If I could change any of that, I would.
Man, and to be here and to be in assistance, and I mean, obviously you have the entire community around the world supporting this. We all want justice for Breonna Taylor. What can we do, though? I mean, more than just the hashtag. What can we do to support this cause to make sure that justice is served?
Well, and you've done a lot, Nick, by using your influence. People gotta go vote, man. I mean, if this election that's coming up, and all these federal judges, we're gonna be in court arguing in the civil wrongful death case for her life, saying that her life has value. But then in the criminal courts, whoever the attorney general and the DAs, those are the people who are gonna decide if anybody will be held accountable for Breonna, will be held accountable for Laquan McDonald, will be held accountable for Stephon Clark, Philando Castile, all these names, Sandra Bland.
The mayor picks the police chief, so it's an appointment. It's not an elected. So who we elect as our next mayor, that's important. He can't run again. He's a lame duck right now. Like, he's termed out. Once his term is over,
So we need some change here in Louisville to who's going to be the mayor.
Who's going to be the next mayor? So we need to be strategizing.
What you doing? You we need you.
But, so it's those type of strategies that us as a community need to be working on too. Quit letting them tell us who our leaders are going to be. We need to start selecting the leaders. We got the voting power.
Local government and policy is what you're speaking of, and being educated on the people who are going to be your attorney generals, who are going to be your chief of police, and understanding what laws are being passed. Why do you think it is, and is it the media's fault that when it comes to going to vote and time to vote, they only focus on the presidency. But the local matters are the things that really affect your life.
Yeah, well, you got to remember now, Nick, they ain't trying to empower us.
They want to keep it a secret.
They don't want us to vote. They want us to be apathetic.
Right.
They don't want us to know that in every local election, who is the mayor, who is the district attorney, who's the school superintendent, is decided by sometimes a couple of hundred, maybe 1,000, a few thousand votes. And that if just the black people went and vote, we can be the critical mass to decide who is the police chief, who is going to be the mayor, who is going to decide the prosecutor, who's going to decide every day, Nick, whether your child is going to be given the benefit of the doubt when they come up there on a trumped up felony conviction, or whether they're going to become a convicted felon. Because I have a book, Open Season, to Legalize Genocide of Colored People, and it's premised on this notion, as bad as it was how they killed Trayvon, as bad as it was how they killed Mike Brown, as bad as it is how they killed George Floyd, as bad as it is how they killed Breonna Taylor, as bad as it is how they killed 12-year-old Tamir Rice, and everybody else who the police killed. It is far worse how they kill our people in every city, in every state, in every courtroom in America every day.
It's been over 6 months, 2 days, and 13 hours and counting, and Louisville and the rest of the entire world anxiously awaits for justice to be served. Will the grand jury provide justice for Breonna or exonerate the officers who brutally murdered her? In May, after the request of Jefferson's Commonwealth attorney Tom Wine, Kenneth Walker's charge of attempted murder of a police officer was dismissed. Rightly so, now Walker is suing the city. So what have we learned? What changes can be made to save the life of the next Breonna Taylor? Since those tragic events in March, Louisville Metro Council has passed a ban on no-knock warrants. Included in the measure, new guidelines for police cameras to be used when conducting a search. Breonna was never convicted or suspected in any violent crimes. She was just a known associate of a person that was being investigated for drugs. America needs to ask itself, what amount of seized drugs and money is worth a human life? Did the police fire blindly through walls, windows, and doors because they identified a threat? Or was it an egregious retaliation for one of their members being hit? When black lives have less value to the person holding the gun, they require less compassion. No-knock warrants were prescribed for a people who are thought of as a lesser class. A class who has been criminalized due to poverty. America's war on drugs is really a code for the war on us. But Breonna should have never been a casualty of this conflict. Over 20 shots were criminally fired blindly into Breonna's apartment, killing her. Where is her justice? Will it ever come? Breonna Taylor is another name in an endless list of victims. Victims of America's systemic racism and a ghost of its past that continue to haunt us all. But we cannot give up on change. We must continue to be righteous, continue to operate on the highest frequency, and we must continue to fight. Only through silence and non-action can we lose. Because as Dr. King says, injustice anywhere is a threat to justice everywhere. It's incredible!